Hello, friends. Welcome back to the School of Self Worth. I'm your host, Nicole Song. And one of the most popular episodes that we do every year is a recap of the previous year where I talk about my biggest lessons learned. Now, if you didn't know this already, I had a baby in 2025. So there are some pretty big lessons that came to pass for me this year, and I cannot wait to share them with you. And they're just like they're so big, they're so expansive, and this applies not to just parents. These are lessons truly for any high achiever, because I know the mentality of that high achieving woman, because I am that person. So you'll want to stay tuned for all of these lessons from this year. And if you are a high achieving Asian American woman who is ready to reverse cultural conditioning so that you can be visible and influential in 2026, DM me 2026 on Instagram at Nicole Song, because I've got something over there for you. Okay, friends, let's do this. Let's talk about 2025. Hey, friends. So I have a question for you. Are you someone who likes to reflect on the year that you've had? Or do you tend to just power through and you're always on to the next thing? For most of my life, I was the latter. I was always just like power through. Reflection was not a thing. I never paused. As soon as I finished something, I was on to the next thing. I didn't celebrate. I didn't reflect. I didn't look back. I just plowed forward because I thought that was like the only way to succeed. Like I just had to go as hard as possible at all times. And so I was always ready to just tackle the new thing. And in December, I was just like, okay, let's get through all of the New Year's, like all of the stuff for the holidays and go on to the new year. And here we go. Like I just never really ever gave myself any opportunity to consider there might be something worth looking at. And I would call appreciation for myself and my life and my lessons learned one of my biggest weak spots for most of my life. And it's something that I have transformed into one of my strengths. And I now am someone who is really, I love reflection. I love taking space and time to look back and to really understanding what it is that transpired so that I can take those lessons moving forward. And it's one of the most important ways I set myself up for a new year. So today I'm going to share my top 6 lessons of the year. And this was a massive year of change for me. And I really am so excited to dig in with you. And I know that regardless of where you are in your life, that you should be able to find something in here, some nugget that hopefully can support you in whatever challenges may have transpired for you in 2025, to see those lessons for yourself and then to really head into 2026 with clarity. Okay, so here we go. Let's start with number 6. And this one is really around surrender. So I did share a surrender episode a little while back. This one is another level and layer of surrender that I really had to learn this year. And I will say this, I used to think it was weak. Like I thought surrender was for people who couldn't handle life, like who couldn't really get on the ball. They weren't action takers. They weren't the type of people who were go-getters. And so surrender really was for people, I'm like, those people are never going to get what they want in their life, is what I used to think. I was always used to fighting my way through, proving myself, working harder than everybody else, and doing everything I could possible to hit the goals that I wanted to reach. But over time, I have learned to surrender. And I will say that being pregnant will force you to surrender pretty quickly. So I started 2025 pregnant. And it started with actually having to change how I moved my body. Many of you know I have a yoga background, a fitness background. And so I wanted to do all the things I always did. I wanted to Olympic weightlift. I wanted to tap dance. I wanted to walk. I wanted to hike. I wanted to do yoga. And I was doing all of those things, but very early on, I was trying to be a little bit cautious. And so I was like, okay, like I think I have to just surrender to being okay that I might not be able to do everything the way that I've always done it before. And so I kept doing all the things that I wanted to, but I had to really scale it down for a bit, especially in my first trimester. And so, I did things like positioning myself at the door in my heated yoga class so I get a little bit of a breeze. I changed how I was lifting. I wasn't going so intense and so heavy. I really started to make a lot of shifts and surrendered to the fact that my body was doing something different. It was creating a human life. And so I needed to actually surrender and allow it the energy and the space and the time that it needed for that. I surrendered in how I ate. I changed how I ate to really, clean up my diet for the arrival of this human being. I had to surrender in my sleep because I started getting insomnia, which is not something I typically have. So my body was changing also constantly, like through the whole pregnancy. And so I had to not only surrender once, I had to surrender. Sometimes it felt like every minute of every day to what was actually occurring in my body. And then, of course, there is the surrender that occurs once you have a baby. But it was a really, really powerful experience for me to just start to practice surrender as something I did every day, as opposed to something I had to do occasionally or something I had to do, if like there was a big moment in life where I'm like, okay, now I just have to surrender to that moment. Like the whole year was a big moment. So I had to constantly just give myself that space and time to surrender. And what happened for me also is that it just allowed me to have more space in my mind for my life. Like I actually could have both the surrender in my business. I had to surrender in my business as well. And I'm going to get into that more in some of my other lessons, but I had to surrender around how I was running my business. I had to surrender in how my body was occurring. I had to surrender in my marriage. I had to surrender on so many different levels. And even though this is like the first lesson I'm starting with, it's like the one thing I would say was probably the biggest theme for myself for the year was just being in that practice of surrender. And here's the thing is like I didn't actually give up, and surrender is not giving up. I actually was really clear. So like we'll take the movement piece as an example. I moved my body consistently the entire time I was pregnant and also postpartum. I was really clear that movement was good for me. I just surrendered how I had always done it before and how I thought I had to do it to stay healthy and sane and safe. And that surrender really made all the difference for me, being able to say, okay, like I might just have to walk today, or I might just have to do this slightly differently. And it's all going to be okay. It's not going to make me weak. It's not going to make me have like the hardest time ever. Like I was walking 10,000 steps like the week I gave birth, but that didn't mean anything. Like I just was like, okay, that's okay because I can do this right now. And then once I had the baby, I was walking like 500 steps a day. How can we just actually surrender to the circumstances that are around us? And that was really, truly like a lived practice for me all year and a huge lesson for me all year. Next, number 5. This one is about getting help. So growing up, I didn't ask for help. That was not the way. That was not the Asian way. I was conditioned by my Asian parents to keep it in the family. Like, don't share anything that would make you look weak or bad. Like, don't embarrass us by looking like you don't know what you're doing and you need help. So I never asked for help. I had a total go it alone mentality for everything. And it started when I was in high school and it went on all through my life. And especially the older I got as an adult, I feel like the less I asked for help. Or if I asked for help, I was like super embarrassed about it. And then I never really got the kind of help that was the most powerful and the kind that would really make a difference for me. But this year, I had to really dig in on asking for help, like in a totally different level. Because when you have a baby, you need help. Like you need support when you come home from the hospital. You need help learning to breastfeed. You need help eating. Like DoorDash saved me, and so many people would send us DoorDash gift certificates because that was a lifesaver at that time. You need help to take time off work. Like I have had so much help from my team for me to be able to take a proper leave so that I could really heal and be with my baby. I had help from coaches, incredible coaches, wonderful coaches who supported my cohorts, Your Clear Calling and my mastermind. Like I had such incredible support from amazing coaches during that time. And I had to ask them for that help as well. And if I had stuck to the idea that I didn't need help or I don't need help or I could do this all by myself, this is what it would have looked like. I would have been working crazy hours leading up until the time I left. And I actually would have come back from maternity leave much earlier. I would have been coaching like 2, 3, 4 weeks postpartum. I would have really just been struggling to stay up and I probably would have been way more exhausted. I would have been having a lot more trouble with my own, like just having a newborn, and I would have had more trouble in my marriage. And I know that is what it would look like if I didn't ask for help. And so what I did instead is I asked for a lot of help and I had so much support during the 3 full months that I took off, and then, I sort of very slowly came back after that. But all the time that was happening, me asking for help was actually setting up a framework for like, wow, like my life can feel so much more easeful, because it really felt easeful during that time. I felt like I could really focus my energy very much on like my newborn son, on my marriage, and not on like worrying about what was going on in my business or anything else. So asking for help, it was just a new level of seeing it this year. It's something I work with Asian American women on a lot, because we are so used to not asking for help, or like having a hard time receiving it. And this year I really asked for it. I received it. There were so many layers to that help. And if you are someone who struggles with it, I highly encourage you not to wait to a point where you might have a baby or like it's urgent, and to actually start to consider, is there an area in my life where I'm like actually blocking myself and slowing myself down because I'm not asking for help? But my next lesson I'm going to share with you is actually also about the way to speed up what you're doing. So, my next lesson, which is number 4, and this expands upon asking for help, is my lesson was, don't listen to the internet and do this instead. I mean, I already know don't listen to the internet, and all of us are on the internet, so it can be a little challenging not to listen to it. But this is one hill I will die on, because this is something I feel so passionately about. And I was really determined to follow it during pregnancy, having a baby, going on maternity leave. And so this is it. It's not only important to ask for help, it's essential to filter who you are asking for help from. Who you're asking for help from is as important as asking for help. Who are you talking to? Who are you asking for their support, their advice? This is essential. So I have learned this over the years. When I'm entering something unknown, I have learned it is so much faster, so much more impactful, and so much simpler to get help from experts, not the internet, not your friends, not your mom's friend's daughter who had a baby 2 months ago, not from your neighbor. Because when you are pregnant, I mean, this is true of any stage in life, but especially when you're pregnant, you're going to get so much unsolicited advice. And then it like ramps up like threefold once you have the baby. So while some of it can help, and I'm not begrudging anybody who wanted to offer suggestions, advice for what they went through, what I find is that it tends to create for me more chaos and chatter in my brain. It tends to make me question myself and wonder if I'm doing things right. And also, it's not coming from a place for me. Like, what I want to do is to get people who understand on a much bigger, broader level what is really occurring for me, like in pregnancy or having a baby and in life. Like, I've understood this in terms of coaching. I get a lot of support in running my business. I get a lot of support in like dating. You've heard me talk about, those of you who haven't listened, I have like episodes around dating where I had a dating coach, and I had somebody who supported me in that, because I was like, well, I think she knows more about this than I do. So let me ask her. And the help that really makes a difference is that kind of help. It's the kind of help that I have actually really learned to trust over the year. And they are experts. And when I think of an expert, I think of, has this person helped more than a couple of people? Like, when it comes to parenting, most parents have only ever parented their own children, but people who are experts have helped hundreds, if not thousands, of people with that exact issue. And so, for me, for example, with physical pain, I always go to an expert like my chiropractor. Like, I would never go ask somebody who doesn't really know that much about the body to help me with physical pain in my body. So, like, that is one example. But the same thing is true for me. Like, during pregnancy, I also was having challenges and pain in my body, and other people who had been pregnant also had those challenges. But when I wanted to solve those challenges, I went to my chiropractor, who specializes in pre and postpartum care. And then when I had the baby and I had things going on that I didn't know how to help him with, who did I talk to? My pediatrician. I talked to my lactation consultant. I hired an overnight doula and a postpartum doula, and she helped me so much. Shout out Dana, like the best ever doula, to help me figure out what to do with a newborn and how to get him to sleep and how to get him to breastfeed and all of those things that happen when you have a new baby. Because I've learned that lots of people want to give you advice. so many, especially when you become a mom. And I understand the desire, because once you go through it, you're just like, oh my goodness, like, let me tell you what I went through. But I know from experience, there is a difference from people who understand the big picture of the challenges and who know how to support people. And like my doula told me so many times of all these different examples of moms and what they were going through at different stages in that early newborn piece, that there's no way I could have known, and no way probably would have even had anybody. Like, I find most parents can't even exactly remember what happened at that time. And so she was so, like, she was in it, she's in the thick of it, she sees newborns all the time. She was so helpful to us at that time, and I really relied on her a ton. And it was the best decision I ever made. Like, my doula helped us dial in our overnight routine. My pediatrician and lactation consultant helped us get breastfeeding on track. And when I had to figure out how to run a business on maternity leave, I also turned to my own coaches for that, who have helped so many of their clients do the same. So I'm just giving you guys all some context around this, because the tendency often, especially in this age of social media and the internet, is to ask the internet for help or to ask other people for help. But really, there are people out there who are so equipped to support you. And it's the investment I will make time and time and time again. It's just the best way. It's the fastest way. It's the simplest way to really feel like you're on track with anything you're working through, anything that you're feeling challenged by. And I feel like for myself, like, that's what I work with Asian American women, particularly on cultural conditioning, because I have worked with so many. It's not just around my own personal cultural conditioning. I have seen it, and I have put into place systems and structures that really help them, that I have seen work for more than one person, more than a couple of people. And so it's something that I really respect, other people who have put the time and energy into becoming an expert into it, and they really know something. And it's like, I trust you, so I work with them. So that is something this year really, really important, when there was just so much unsolicited advice coming my way, that those are the people I trusted. Those are the people that I turned to. And I always just recommend that for you, for any challenge that you're going through in your life. Okay, so now this next one is one of the biggest ones that was just super supportive and helpful for me. And it was around how powerful habits change your life. And I've always known how important habits are. I've known that for a long time. I'm really big on self care. I do multiple things per day on an average day to take care of myself, like so many things: movement, meditation, the way that I eat, the breaks that I take, all of that. I knew it would change once I had a baby. So, and it did. Like, there's just no question that it did. The first couple of months, my self care was much dialed back. Taking a shower daily, eating well, drinking water. Like, those were like the basics that I needed every day. And I didn't have a lot of bandwidth for much more than that. But once we got settled in and I was gearing up to work again, I could feel something was missing, because I was doing those things. I was taking my shower. I was, eating well. I was drinking water. Usually I was taking a walk. Like, that's one of my basics, but I still felt off. And I was like, okay, how do I get back to feeling solid and steady? And I was like, I think I need to go back to some of my old practices. And one of my key practices that I teach and that I do myself is every day I do a morning meditation. And I have like a whole series of things that I do in the morning in that meditation. And I hadn't been doing it because I had really inconsistent sleep with the baby. But once I was in a place where I was like, okay, I really actually need to bring this back in, I just had to decide. And I had been doing this morning meditation practice for myself since, let's see, about 2017 or 16, something around there, somewhere, actually 15, maybe almost a decade. I've been doing it for almost a decade. And so I decided it was time to bring it back. It was a Monday. I was like, all right, today's the day. And I did it. And I just started doing it. And literally, as soon as I recommitted to it, it was so easy. It felt so familiar. It felt so good. And it snapped back into place like I had never stopped. And I was like, wow, habits are so powerful. Like, I had this habit that I had done for years, and I took a 3-month break from it. And when I came back, it was right there for me. It was ready and waiting. And it just totally changed how I was feeling about myself on a daily basis, how I was feeling working again, coming back from maternity leave. And it was so impactful. And the best thing about habits is that once they're there, and it takes about 60 days to put habits into place, the ones that really support you, it just it was so it proved to me what really can happen when you do rewire your brain, because I was not somebody who had an easy time with meditation when I started. I led a program for many years that was like a 40 days of meditation, and every time the 40 days was over, I would stop meditating until one year I just decided to keep going. And then that was the year I really began this daily practice. And I've been doing it ever since. So it's been whatever, 10 years now. And then taking a 3-month break didn't kill it off. I had actually rewired my brain that to go back to it. So once I went back to it, there it was. It was just like, like a comfortable, soft blanket that you love. Like it really felt that way to do it. And it's been so incredible to see it come back in. And I brought in other habits too, even with the baby. I'm like, some of the habits that really support me have come back into my life again, like long walks, and I just take them with the baby now instead. All of those things are happening and it feels so, so good. And so I am just such a proponent of habits in general, but I'm really seeing the impact of having established them and then having a circumstance in life that takes me away from them for a while. Like, wow, it's so possible to come back to it and to really see the benefit of them. So you can always, like, starting powerful habits. If you want something in the new year, there would be nothing more impactful than doing that. Okay, so this brings me to lesson number 2. And this one is, you don't know what you don't know. I mean, that can summarize, I think, pregnancy, childbirth, parenting, but I'm not trying to make this only about parenting. It's just been obviously the biggest thing that's happened in my year. But this year, I will say this: I entered a world I literally didn't know existed. And I don't mean just having a baby, because of course, like, that is a world I didn't know anything about. And I just had ideas about and was guessing about and tried to prepare for. But there is this really cool world that I didn't know existed that is a pay it forward world. And it's created and generated by other moms. And it's every person I have ever known who's ever given birth or had a baby, had a child, because they showed up like in so many ways. They showed up with food, with gift cards, with supportive text, sending me baby clothes. We got so many things from people, like just, a mobile or, a stroller or a carrier. Like we just got so many things from people, but they really just know the monumental experience of having a baby. And it's not just about the gifting stuff. There was just this energy of pay it forward. Like I was really surprised at how many people showed up for us who I don't really know that well. Like they're people who are in our community or network, but they're not close friends. And they showed up big, and I feel like it's just this energy of like, I've been there and other people supported me, so I'm going to support you. And I really felt that like so deeply when it was occurring, especially in the first couple of months where you just really need a lot of help around food and basics. And so I felt it myself. And as soon as my baby hit 3 months, I actually wanted to also do it for others, like other new moms that I saw. I'm like, oh my gosh, let me help you. Like, let me give you some breast milk. Like, let me make you a meal. Even though like we were still, we had just barely gotten ourselves to that place. I was just so grateful for that energy of pay it forward. Like I have never been so grateful in my life for the way people showed up for us. And if any of you are listening, thank you. Like anything you did, like every single bit of it mattered. And what was really cool and what I realized over time, it was the accumulation of all of it. It wasn't like any one individual person made the biggest difference. It was the night after night, day after day of different people showing up for us. And even people who are like, they waited on purpose till like 3 months because they're like, now is when nobody helps you. So that helped us the most. And they showed up with boba and, food. And you're just like, wow, thank you. So there's just this energy of pay it forward that exists out there. So if you didn't know, now you know, or maybe you didn't have language for it. Shout out to my friend Casey for giving me that language, but it really was so, I don't know. I felt so grateful, so blessed to have that experience of that pay it forward energy. And I know that it's in me now, and I will be doing that for other moms as well. And like, I think back to all the times where I had friends who had babies and I didn't really understand like what they needed. And now I'm like, oh, it's just so different when once you have one. And I'm not beating myself up for that, but I also just I'm like, oh, cool. Like now I get to also generate and pay it forward for them and for future moms as well. And it's just really been such an expansive experience to understand that that community exists in that particular way. And it makes me want to just keep going with it because it's just so powerful and so cool. So you don't know what you don't know. And some of the things you don't know are just awesome. Just awesome. Okay, this leads me to my last lesson of the year. And, a lot of the lessons I'm sharing with you are ones that I know, but there's just a different element to it. There's a different shading of it from the experience I had this year. And this one is really that you don't ever have to feel alone. Growing up, I often felt like the one and the only. I was like the only Asian in the room. That was a very common experience for me growing up in the suburbs of Chicago. Even in journalism, I had that experience a lot. I definitely had that experience a lot in yoga, and I've had that experience in entrepreneurship. And it's really why I created Your Clear Calling, because for a lot of the women in my course, they've never had a space that was just for Asian American women. And I know a lot of Asian American women have never had spaces like that in general in their lives. Like they're really used to going it alone. And I know that in my community it's become super important for them. And I also have seen this in a lot of moms, in a lot of moms that I coach, and then a lot of moms that I know, where they go into the experience feeling isolated and they get super isolated once they have their kid. And I didn't want that for me or for my baby or family. And so I decided to look for what I needed. And I joined a BIPOC expecting moms group before I had my baby. And then I also joined a BIPOC parenting group afterward, run by a really cool nonprofit in Seattle called Families of Color Seattle. In these groups, so I'm also not a joiner. Like I don't really like to join things. I always feel like, like I can do it on my, so I can do it on my own. I can do it by myself kind of mentality. So I had to really get over that cultural conditioning and be like, it's okay to join something, Nicole. And I did know that I really deeply desired having other moms who are going through the thing at the same time. Like I have a lot of mom friends, and you are all awesome if you're listening. And I know it's really different. And I have found it to be really different to have mom friends, parents who are at the same stage of where you're at. Like having a newborn, having a 3-month old is really different from remembering what it was like to have a 3-month old. And so it's been really amazing to have that, to have these people who were, in that same intentionality of wanting their children to have children of color around them. In Seattle, it can be pretty challenging to find deep levels of diversity in groups. And so there's a bunch of people in there who are really committed to, having lots of BIPOC around them and their child and raising their child with diversity. And, I also wanted a mom. I actually, at the time when I was pregnant, I was like, I just really want a mom friend who's in her 40s and having a baby for the first time. But that's like most of the group, not most, like a bunch of people in the group. And so I found that as well. And that has been a really awesome experience too, because like other people who are older and having children, is actually really normal. It's part of the culture, I would say, in Seattle. It's pretty normal too. So it's been really fun for me to have that. And it has helped anytime I felt isolated, anytime I felt alone. They have helped me laugh when I wanted to cry over things I was going through with my baby. They have cooed over my baby just as I get to ooh and ah over theirs. Like it's so fun to see them all play together. I mean, they don't really play because they're all pretty small still, but they, hang out together, and it's really cute to watch them engage and interact. And I would say above all, like they have made sure I never felt alone in this journey. And I would say for any of you, like that experience of being alone isn't something you have to live with. I find so many women when they come to me do feel really alone and isolated because of the circumstance. Like at work, they might be the only Asian American woman, and or they also haven't really found community networks and people going through what they're going through. And then when they come inside Your Clear Calling, they come into my cohort, they realize that they're not alone, that there's so many other people like them going through very similar circumstances and situations. And then they really start to expand simply from that support. Like I will say that going to these parenting groups was like one of the most joyful things for me during maternity leave in particular. Like I really looked forward to it. We spent a lot of time talking about how we wanted to raise our children, how we were raised, how culture came into play, how did race come into play, and like really being aware of like all of those experiences for ourselves individually, how that was going to impact our children and what we wanted for them going forward. And just being able to have that conversation, like that made such a difference for me. So sometimes it's just like having the place where you can actually talk about things in a really, just in a network with people who know what it's like. And that's what I would say that group was like for me. And then that is also what your clear calling is like for so many of my clients. And I also just love being in a space that's just for Asian American women because there's not very many. If you hadn't noticed, there's really not that many. And if you're here at the end of this, listening to this, you know this to be true. And so to me, it's really essential to have those spaces available for people because the level of ease and relaxation and spaciousness that's possible in that kind of environment is just it's hard to describe, and it's really powerful. So, if you made it all the way to here, thank you so much for listening to my top 6 lessons for 2025. I would love to hear what resonated with you, what hit you in the gut and you're like, "Yep, that lesson is something I'm working on right now too." So, DM me at Nicole Song on Instagram and let me know, or if there's just anything really powerful from this episode that you want to share, screenshot it, share it on Instagram, tag me. We always love to get the word out for people around what they can really see for themselves in their own lives. So share it out there. Thank you so much for being here today. And then again, if you are like, I am ready to reverse some of the cultural conditioning for myself, I want to really be in that next level of visibility in 2026. Now is the time. So DM me 2026 on Instagram at Nicole Song, and I will send you some details. All right, friends, have a beautiful week and we'll see you soon.